Welcome to the podcast where three longtime friends talk about video games from the average gamer's perspective. My name is Andrew Kimball.
I'm Dylan Wren.
And I'm Aubrey Summer.
And
we are your friendly neighborhood gamers.
Welcome back to the neighborhood, and thanks for stopping by. This is a big episode because we are talking about the Switch 2 Direct and all of the news that dropped after the fact as well. Before we dive in, if you enjoy what we do here, we would greatly appreciate it if you would leave us a 5-star rating on...
I was emphasizing.
Oh, that looked like a please
This is a
stop.
video podcast. This is a video podcast now, too.
Well, we would really appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating or review on your podcast app of choice if it allows it. Also, speaking of the video version, the equivalent to that on YouTube, if that's where you like to consume your content, is to leave a comment or a like or subscribe to the channel. That all goes a really long way in helping us grow. We're off to a great start already. This is probably going to be a pretty chunky episode, so we're just going to dive right into this thing. We're going to try to keep this somewhat structured for the sake of the conversation here. We're going to talk about the Switch itself. We actually got to see it, what it does, its new features. We're going to talk about the games that are coming from Nintendo and all the news that's come out about that. And then we're going to talk about some of the games that are coming to the Switch third party. Mm-hmm. Probably not all of them because there was quite a list, but we're going to cover some of the ones that stood out to us.
The ones that we care.
Probably going to be the From Software section of this episode is what that's going to turn into.
What?
So
no. With us? No.
Yeah, I was going to say, Aubrey's on maternity break from the podcast, and we talk about Bloodborne every episode for the whole time. With that being said, let's dive into the device itself. So it's bigger. It has better frame rate.
Twice as big? Right? Roughly is what they were saying. Twice as many pixels. It's 1080p now.
It's twice as many pixels. Yeah, I don't know about twice as big, but twice as many pixels, way higher frame rate. It can get up to 120 frames per second, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Just better specs all across, visually and frame rate wise.
Yeah, can take advantage of HDR, right? That was something. If it's docked, you can output to your TV in 4K. I think that's capped at 60 probably frames a second.
I'm not sure about the 4K part of it, but overall better. Reports have been coming out or what I've been seeing, although I haven't gone and done a deep dive myself, is that the battery is, similar to the last one where it's 2 to however many hours depending on the game, but you're not going to do an all day gaming marathon in handheld anyways. People that get all wrapped up in the battery life as a major con, it's who realistically is sitting there for a 12-hour period trying to play their Switch the whole time without a charger or taking a break or anything like that.
Right. Because that's my thinking is it makes sense that you would a road trip or a plane ride or something like that. But in both of those scenarios, a lot of planes now have the ability to charge things. Yeah. And then the a road trip, they make a car charger adapter. So if your kid's you're not playing it, your kid might be playing it. You're probably driving.
Yeah, exactly.
But if your kid is playing it, it's you could get the car charger going and boom, there they go.
Exactly.
So
something we talked about during our initial kind of speculation when they did their first announcement was, the attachment of the Joy-Cons. They did confirm that that's like magnetic with a lock switch on it. So probably going to be pretty solid, having that like lock button on the back. I think that'll be a lot better than the slide. It seems to snap in a lot easier. So
yeah, it also seems like that's probably, I think we talked about it speculating that would be a point of failure potentially, but also if it is just magnetic, it probably breaks less than the current ones with little kids, which are already decently durable.
Yeah.
So, and they like bigger joysticks, bigger,
the buttons,
like bigger, the buttons and everything.
the D-pad and stuff. Yeah. Basically just overall, since the device itself is bigger, I mean, it makes sense that the Joy-Cons would have like made for bigger hands, which is cool. They're probably still going to be like one of the least form-fitting options as far as like holding a controller, but it is nice that they're a little beefier. They can be used as mice now, which is interesting.
Yeah. That was interesting in concept. I'm interested to see how that works, right? Because
Mario Party will use it, and then maybe a couple other like early Switch games, and then nobody else is going to use it.
Yeah. Well, because like I'm thinking about like, because technically you could plug a keyboard and mouse into your Xbox, right? Like,
yeah, I think both consoles.
Keyboard and mouse, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, let's say that I bought Civilization 7 on, or 8. I don't remember what they're on. What did I pick up in the draft? Whatever the newest Civ is.
I think it's 7, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. And to be fair, I haven't looked at this, but like a lot of console games don't come with like a keyboard and mouse option. Like Baldur's Gate. I would love to play Baldur's Gate with a like wireless keyboard and mouse on my Xbox because my computer won't run it. But
have you tried plugging like a keyboard and mouse into your Xbox to see if it lets you
again,
switch?
To be fair, I haven't tried, but I'm fairly certain that like it's not designed to like just swap over to that. I could be wrong. I would love to be wrong.
Let us
and
know
if
in
I
the
am
comments.
wrong, let me know in the comments and I will replay Baldur's Gate 3. But I wonder how much this will be used outside of like Nintendo's tech demo games that and like Mario Party, like you said, just because it would be cool if you could use it as like, oh, I'm going to play this like RTS or something like that. But I kind of feel like that's not how it's going to be. Like they're just not going to bother dealing with that. They're going to just port. They're not going to, like, they'll have the PC version and the console version, and they're not going to try to make a third or Switch 2 specific version that uses like their stuff, because they did show off Metroid being played controller mouse or whatever, like whatever that is called. So it's one of those where I'm just like, I don't see a bunch of like FPS developers bothering to like figure out how to do that, like making a third control scheme. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I'd love to be wrong.
That's the thing, is that it's not as easy as just swapping over to like keyboard and mouse version, because it's just mouse and other controller. So it's like an in-between that would have to be kind of like developed for specifically. It's because if you were going to just, like you were talking about with the Xbox, if you were just going to plug your keyboard and mouse into your Xbox to play like Baldur's Gate, if you were going to do something similar on the Switch, you wouldn't plug a keyboard and then use your Joy-Con. You would just go all the way and get keyboard and mouse. Like, so it is kind of this awkward, and I think it's one of those things that will fall to the wayside as we get into it, just like the PlayStation touchpad and all the different things that are in that controller are rarely used. Same thing with the original Joy-Cons. They have all this crazy like vibration and stuff in them, but most games don't actually develop for that because, I mean, a lot of them are third party, so it'd be crazy to just do the extra work for one console. But it's more of a gimmick. It's one of those things that they can pull out when they're announcing the console and be like, check out all these cool new features and reasons that you need this thing.
Yep. Yep. So I know one of the other things that it's got faster storage, which means your old SD card probably won't work on the Switch 2, which is kind of a bummer. So you have to get I forget what it's called. It's like the SD Express, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and rewatch it, or
Yeah.
I'm not up to date on my SD card terminology. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense that it would use a better version. Hopefully this means that load times and stuff will be a little bit better, because those were definitely getting a little rough on the Switch.
Yeah. And to be fair, like an SD card is not terrible. Like it's, I think, $60 for like a 250 gig one, which is not terrible for
as far as storage goes, it's pretty inexpensive, and in general Switch games are small, so it's not like 250 gigs is going to get you a lot further on a Switch than it will on any of the other consoles. But that's one of a few things that you'll have to buy additionally if you want to take advantage of all of the new features and things that they're touting with the Switch 2, because they want to try to sell you a camera, and that is because they decided to put like Discord in to the Switch.
Yeah. I kept waiting during that presentation for them to pull up like a partnered with Discord thing.
Yeah, no. That is not
because
Nintendo's
it looked
way.
like it. But yeah, it was just Nintendo's sort of worse knockoff version of Discord. And I was surprised how much of it they showed, because there was a lot of them showing like it started off just kind of very chill and normal, like, oh, okay, you can get in like a party with your friends. And then it was like, hey, you can use the camera to see your friend. Or did it start with the camera, or did it start with sharing the screens? I think it started with sharing like gameplay.
Yeah, I think it just started with like a Discord call, like little icons, like your profile picture. And then it showed them like their gameplay, and the gameplay looks really rough on your friend's screen.
Yeah.
Like it's super low frame rate.
Yeah. They didn't try to like, now to be fair, props to them. They didn't try to candy coat it or make it look better than it was. It was clearly like they were showing it actually running, because it was choppy as all hell and like did not look good at all. And I was like, that's real. They are showing real captured stuff. They didn't like overlay some other nicely captured gameplay on this thing. It was real. I don't know the use case for that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the target demographic.
Well, no, they showed a bunch of people our age, like being like, hey, let's play, what we get into, like the new Mario Kart game, and all hang out together. And they're like, wow, it's so crazy and so cool. And where'd you go? And blah, blah, blah. Realistically, this is for like my daughter and her cousins to like hop on, because it's Nintendo, so it's controlled. You can have like your little character emoji like type thing over it instead of your face. And the reason it's not Discord is because Nintendo likes to have full control of all of their stuff, so that they can like lock it down however much they want to. And so, but yeah, it was a really, like, it feels like a feature nobody was asking for. Props to them, I guess, for putting it in the Switch instead of making you use like an app to party up with your friends like we had to do with the Switch 1. Probably they saw everybody was using Discord to do that instead of using their app. And so they're like, well, what if we just make our own Discord? And so, but to use like face cams, which they've integrated into some games for like Mario Party mini games, for example, you have to buy their proprietary camera, because like it seems like the tech is pretty cool, where when you're using that camera, it's got like a built-in kind of green screen feature where behind them you just saw the person and behind them was their gameplay. So there wasn't like, the camera is doing that. So,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like it's actually a decent piece of tech, but it's still an additional. It's like the Kinect, like you have to buy it with the thing if you want the feature. I don't know how many of those they're going to sell because I don't know how many people care about this.
And unlike the Connect, I didn't like it's not a pack in
No,
with
yeah.
it's not a bundle.
Mm-mm.
Like it's a in addition, like they have the console, they have the bundle, and then they have in addition to you can buy this. So, and there were, like you said, there were cool features about the camera. Like it it looked like if you had one, there was a point where people were playing on the same couch and it was singling out like the different people
Mm.
for and like putting their little face in the icon with just the one camera as far as I could tell, like it was an interesting bit of tech there that I thought was pretty cool. But it was one of those things where I watched that and I was like, there's absolutely no reason I'm going to spend an additional like whatever $50-$100 on
Yeah,
this camera.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah, I same thing. I was like, I don't need that.
yeah.
And the feature that they're trying to sell me on it, it's like not cool enough. If I was going to use
Hmm.
the Nintendo Switch Discord app to like party up with a friend and play like,
Yeah.
Mario Kart or whatever, I just wouldn't have my camera on. I mean, that's how we do it now,
Hmm.
like playing Marvel Rivals or something together. Like we'll hop in a Discord call, but we don't all have our face cams on while
Yeah.
we're doing it. So it it was a weird kind of core feature for them to
Hmm.
be parading out.
Yeah. Well, and I think that speaks to how at least you and I view the Nintendo Switch, which is more of like either a solo console or like a party, like in-person party
Yeah.
console, you know? Like we're not generally hopping on Switch to play a multiplayer game with each other. That's either going to be on PC or on Xbox. And the Switch is like where we play the single player Nintendo games or we play Mario Party when we're all together in person. And they did show off some cool features. I think it's maybe a little bit of an extension of stuff they showed off at the other Nintendo Direct they had like a week or two ago, um, where there were some games share locally on white. Like I want to say the new Mario Kart was maybe one where it's like only one person needed to own it, and then you could kind of share
Mm.
the the game, I guess, with other people locally, so that they didn't need to like have their own copy in order to play with you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
There's some interesting stuff about the games themselves. There's like one other console thing I want to touch on before we move to like
yeah.
talking about the games, but the games as hardware,
Hmm.
people are all up in arms because it came out that like they were just essentially digital downloads on a cart.
Some of them.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's not the case
Yep.
for all of the games. Some of them are like that, like the bigger ones that need to be, or the reason they did that for those versions of the games that are just like a digital
Hmm.
code is like it's a way for you to share the digital version of the game, which you can't
Hmm.
really do now. They're all locked to your profile. So they are
Yeah.
doing some stuff interesting with like the tech in the games.
Hmm.
The other thing that I wanted to touch on in the console that we saw when like, the whole group of people was playing together
Yeah.
with the Discord app, they claim that you're going to be happy as a clam using the built-in microphone on your device
Oh.
and
Yep.
that it's going to like have background noise filtering and stuff in it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm
They had
curious to
like a
see
guy.
that.
Yeah, they had a guy come out and like make a smoothie while
Yeah.
his friend was on the couch playing, and it was just like that's not realistic. That's not gonna happen. But I say that, and like we're in a Discord call where, you know, every other week that we do this podcast, like someone's dogs will lose their minds, and the person who's not in the room with those dogs can't hear them, So
Yeah, essentially it is.
noise cancellation has come a long way.
Yeah,
so.
it is essentially just like going to be that kind of tech, that noise gating tech where like unless you're actually talking, it's like cutting your audio. And then there's a lot of like background filtering to try to get rid of like fan noises and stuff too, which is great. Like it would be really cool to see gaming peripheral technology kind of start to do more of that, because you get on a game with your friends using like your headset and everybody sounds like crap and you hear the AC blowing, and it's like it's a rough experience unless you buy like a really nice headset. But I feel like gaming peripherals like that are also in the same like kind of market as like gaming chairs, where it's like we make this for gamers, but it kind of sucks. You're better off getting an office chair. And so it's like you're better off getting like an office headset and like, so there is that whole thing where it's like just marketed to gamers. But I am curious to see like, because the PlayStation has the same thing where you have a microphone and a speaker on your controller, but it's basically a meme. Like people don't actually use that, as far as I know. Maybe like a kid who has no other option would, but like most people are going to go out and at least get a cheap headset or use like headphones or something when they're trying to like talk to friends. So I am curious to see how that stood out to me, especially as like an audiophile, like watching this guy talking to his like Switch microphone, like you said, and his buddy's like making a smoothie. I'm like, I want to see that. I want to play around with that. But
and I want to know what that range is, because like people's living rooms are set up all kinds of ways. There are some people that are a good like 10 feet back from their TV, and it's like, is that gonna reach? Is that really
right? Yeah, if it's like in the dock.
If I put it if my dock is like in sort of like, because your dock's in like kind of a cutout in your entertainment system, right? It's like, if it's in there, is it gonna pick it up in the same way, no. And they did talk a little bit about the new Pro controller, which I think also has a built-in mic to it. I could be wrong.
I think it added the mic and it added the C button, which was like, I'm not spending that money just for those things. But if you don't have a Pro controller, it's definitely probably a worthwhile investment. I love mine for the Switch, current Switch.
Yeah.
But the C button, it was like their first thing they touted was like, hey, new button. And it's basically just like their friend button. It's like the Discord app button. So it's completely useless if you don't use that functionality.
Yep. Exactly. It did have back paddles, the Pro controller.
That's new. That's cool. Yeah.
But it's not though, because my Pro controller has back paddles, and it's like a Monster Hunter one or a Legend of Zelda one. Like that was proprietary Nintendo, I assume. Like it has two little buttons on the back. Like they're not nice paddles, but like it does have like buttons that I could map. I think I've got them because I was playing Monster Hunter, so I think I've got them mapped to like X and Y or something like that. Or, but yeah, it was like I saw that and I saw people commenting on it, and I was like, has that not been a thing? Because mine does. So I don't know.
The regular, just kind of black Pro controller that I have, that I bought back when we were doing like level playing field, so it's pretty old at this point. Maybe they've like revised it, but that one did not have back paddles. It was basically just like, hey, you want a real controller for your Switch? You tired of playing on this square thing made up of two Joy-Cons? Like, we have a controller for that.
Yeah. To be fair, my Pro controller does still feel like a toy. Like it's.
Yeah, I don't know that you have like an actual Nintendo Pro controller then.
I don't know. It's branded as like some Nintendo game. I can't. I think it's Well, I guess Monster Hunter is a Capcom game, but
it's probably like modeled after the Pro controller, but it's not actually like the Nintendo Pro controller. But
gotcha.
Is there anything else that you want to talk? I think the last thing about the console is that we got a release date, and it's soon. Like it's coming out June 5th, which is
my birthday.
I knew that. June 5th, not that far away, which is, I mean, I like that. I wish more companies would do stuff like this. Like, hey, here's the thing. I feel like this is going to be what happens with GTA whenever they finally, it's going to be like,
Yeah.
here's the big kind of
Here's
gameplay
trailer
blowout.
2.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like big trailers. And by the way, it's out in like 2 months,
Yeah.
which I prefer. I mean, we've been talking about that forever. I prefer that much more
Mm-hmm.
than like your Skull and Bones, where you just don't care about
Yeah.
the game anymore by the time it finally
Yeah.
comes out.
Yeah. Well, and especially for a game as big as GTA or for the Switch 2, which is like Nintendo, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't you don't need a huge ass like marketing timeline. Like that's just throwing money away. Like people are already going to want the Switch 2. People are already like GTA 6 is already going to be one of the best-selling games of all time. Like don't market like you don't have to market it. Like I get a longer lead up for you know indie games or smaller titles,
Yeah. An
but
unknown. Yeah. When you're
yeah,
trying
but
to like educate your audience or find your audience. Yeah. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So
But you mentioned that, people are already going to buy it.
mhm.
The console itself costs $450. It
Yeah.
costs $500 if you get the Mario Kart bundle.
Hmm.
And that is going to be our transition into kind of the pricing conversation that has blown up after this. A lot of sentiment online about the quickest I've gone from being hyped watching a presentation to being like
Yeah.
the opposite of hyped after getting more information. We'll kick this conversation off with a comment from our Discord. We reached out after the presentation to our Discord community to see, what thoughts they had about the presentation, and so we have a few of those we're going to try to pepper into this conversation. And so the first one was from Verbal in our Discord community. That is Stefan. If you want to hear more of Stefan, he's on our Fantasy Critic League, and
Hmm.
I don't know where he ranks currently. Hopefully I'm beating him. But he said, well, I think the Switch 2 looks really good, and I'm happy with a lot of the improvements that were made, as well as the new games announced look really as well as the new game announced look really good as well. Them charging $80 for digital games along with $90 for physical copies is concerning, as it's going to start the trend of all game developers doing this.
Yep. And then he added, because there was a little bit of conversation just about that, and he added, when we went to $70, I figured they try to move to 80, but this feels very soon comparatively. Also, Nintendo is notorious for almost never offering discounts on their games, no matter how old they are, and that makes it feel a bit worse.
Yeah. So it came out, Mario Kart specifically is going to be $80 digitally, $90 physical. And of course, this set the internet on fire, as you would expect it to. They have come out since then, and basically now it's more of like a Wild West situation where like some games are 60, some games are 70. Like it came out that Cyberpunk on the Switch is going to be 70. I think Elden Ring maybe is similar. But then like the Donkey Kong game might have been cheaper, or maybe it was Metroid. Like there are varying prices of these games, but like leading with the $80, $90 game and knowing that is the game that every single person that buys a Switch is going to want to also buy, because that game has sold probably the best and has the highest attach rate across the last Switch, and that was a like remaster remake of the Wii U version of Mario Kart. And so that game is basically set Nintendo up for life. Like I can't remember what the actual amount is, but there's some sort of like Nintendo can not make a profit for so many years and be okay, because they've got that much set to where they're like going to be not like a Ubisoft where they need to make a profit or they're going to be in trouble within like a few years. Like Nintendo has like a pretty substantial emergency fund, for lack of a better word. So it's just it's concerning, like Stefan said, as far as like the developers that are going to follow suit.
Yeah, because the ones that you mentioned too, my thought was like, okay, these are third-party developers that didn't know that you were going to price your games at like 80 or 90. And so would like I personally would hope that CD Projekt Red and FromSoft would be like, no, we don't need to price our games, especially ones that are just ports, ridiculously. But would they? Would some of these other ones that they've announced are coming, are those going to be $80, $90 games? And just kind of that, like they said, like once it starts happening, it's hard to like kind of pump, like unless people just do not buy Mario Kart. I don't like people are going to buy it, and so then it's going to be like, well, people bought it for $80 digital, $90 physical, so I guess if they want it, they'll buy it. And that's gonna be same with like the horse armor, where it's kind of like, and now look where we are. uh I definitely understand the concern, because it's like growing up, games were like 50,
Yeah.
like during the like GameCube, Xbox, PS2 era. And then in the 360 era, they went to 60. And they stayed at 60 throughout pretty much all of the Xbox One era. And then have kind of hit that jump to 70 for this current generation. And then Nintendo is bumping it to, 80 to 90. And like you were kind of saying, they don't strike me as the type of studio that would need to charge 80 or $90 to recoup their losses. Like, I'm not saying that Mario Kart it has not taken time and money and employees to develop, but also, do you guys really need $80 to recoup? Like, how much did you spend on, like, if they were more transparent, I guess, with like, hey guys, it's just getting more expensive to develop games, this is how much it costs, even if we sold it at $50 or $60 like you guys want us to, we wouldn't make back what we spent on it. Like, if they did something like that, people might be more understanding. But it's also kind of like, no, like it's kind of like the PlayStation 3, like $6.99 or whatever, hubris almost, that it seems like.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like,
greed,
why?
because
Yeah,
this
like,
game,
why are you doing this?
this game will, like, so there's always the conversation of like consoles are a loss for companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this game probably, if they priced it at like $20, would recoup the console costs, probably the development costs, because it's going to sell forever, and it's going to sell, like, it has the highest attach rate. Like, you think Nintendo and you think Mario Kart. Like, if you get a Switch, you're getting Mario Kart. Like, they're bundling it with it for that reason. And there's so many factors. Like, you talk about the prices of games going up. We've also been getting like deluxe editions that are like $120. We've been getting like season passes and battle passes and all these other things that like nickel and dime us. But it used to be like you could rent games as an option back in the day. And also, like, let's say CD Projekt does charge $90 for their next game. That game will be on sale in a year or so, and you don't have to pay $90. But like Stefan said, Switch or Nintendo, they like rarely do that. If their games go on sale, it's like, oh, now it's $80, $75. Like, you're not getting a really good discount.
Well, and that's what I was going to throw out there. Like, there are a bunch of games for the Switch that I would like to play, that I probably should play as somebody who is on a gaming podcast, like Super Mario Odyssey, Tears of the Kingdom, I would like to play that Kirby game, Forgotten Lands,
Yeah.
Forgotten Realms.
Forgotten Lands.
But like, just a lot of the Nintendo first party stuff, I just am never going to buy because I look at that and I'm like, man, I could get like 3 or 4 other games on Steam or on sale on Xbox for what I could buy one game for on Switch. And I don't even know if I'll like it and stick with it. Like I'd love to play some of the new Paper Mario stuff or like the remake of Thousand Year Door, but it's never going to be priced below $50, And it's like that's a lot of money for and I get that it's like, okay, yes, people like they spent money to make it, but it's one of those too where it's like, yeah, but pretty much everyone else can sell games for less and still be fine, like when CD Projekt Red, as far as we know, is not hurting for money. And you can routinely find The Witcher 3 on sale for $10 complete edition that comes with the 2 DLCs,
Right. But Breath of the Wild, try to find that on sale, and it's like it's not. Yeah, I've been thinking about this as like a content creator and a podcaster. It's like I feel like, and just as a gamer, like a hobbyist gamer, like this hobby is getting too expensive.
Yeah.
And going forward, I'm probably just going to have to do most everything on PC because a bunch of the exclusives end up there eventually, other than Nintendo. Nintendo's the like kind of outlier. But it's like with the cost of the PS5 Pro that came out earlier this year or last year, whenever that was, it's like that's ridiculous. And if that's what the next round of consoles are going to cost, like I definitely can't justify getting both of them. And so it's just like I think we've hit a tipping point where it's like, yeah, sure, a game like, and that's the other thing, it's like a game like Cyberpunk or Grand Theft Auto, because Grand Theft Auto kind of kicked off this conversation earlier this year with the rumors that it might be $100. That game's been in development forever. It's going to push the boundaries of like a realistic world and graphics and visuals and blah, 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 and everybody's going to buy it, and it probably cost a ton of money to develop. I don't want this to sound like mean, but Mario Kart did not take that amount of money to develop. Like it just didn't, flat out. There's no way that it did. And so it's like, even that argument of like games are getting more expensive and more impressive and development and team sizes, it's like, yeah, okay, but not this one. Like it's still just a classic Nintendo video game, and they're so good at making this game that they've probably just been like tweaking and messing with stuff for years on it, and it's been done for forever because at the end of the day, it's still Mario Kart. So, and then I was talking to my wife about the Direct, and I was like, this is the price of the console, which is ridiculous. Like it's kind of gone up. I like initially said for sure I'm going to buy one of these things when it comes out. Now I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to buy one of these things because $500 for a Switch is a lot.
$500 before tax and before and we're recording this like a day after tariffs have gone out, so we still have yet to see like if tariffs will affect this $499 $500 price. So we could be talking like $600 $700 for these consoles,
and then you have to get a game or two to play on it, because you're not just going to buy a console to like look at the start menu. So it's like then you're adding a game price.
Because that's another thing that we skipped about the device is it's not backwards compatible. Like it's kind of halfway backwards compatible. They're emulating the Switch, but like it's not natively backwards compatible. And there's like a list of like compatibility that they've got. So it's kind of like, it's not the jump from like Xbox One to Series X. It's the jump from like 360 to Xbox One, where there was a bunch of stuff that like didn't work. So that's the other thing that I guess we didn't mention is like you can't just buy this. Like a lot of the first party Nintendo stuff probably will work day one. Like Breath of the Wild and all of those will work if you feel like playing an old game on this. But like you said, a lot of stuff's either just not going to work, or like you're going to want to like, why buy a new console unless you're going to
Yeah.
buy games.
And
And if you're going to be dropping like, I mean, after tax at $90 for a physical game, that's essentially $100, you know?
yes.
So,
And the Switch versions of or Switch 2 versions of Switch games, you have to pay a fee to get those versions. Now they did say that the Zelda games, if you're subscribed to the online, you'll get those upgrades for free, but like some of them they put like substantial work into, like Mario Party is getting a lot of additional stuff for the Switch 2 like controller functionality and camera functionality, so like that one I guess makes a little more sense, but but when I was talking about this and I told her the price of the games, basically, yeah, like we're talking $100 a game at this point. She's like, who's going to do that for a 6-year-old?
yeah.
Because like this console is, you know, obviously we're in the hardcore gaming community. Those are the people crying out right now. Like those are the vocal ones. Those are the ones that are like passionate about this, like Disney adults about this. But the other market for the Switch is families and kids and secondary console. Like you and I have a Switch, like you said earlier, as playing Nintendo games, maybe playing indies, smaller games, stuff like that, because you could get a Switch for like $300 or, you know, on sale, maybe a little bit less. When the Switch now costs the same as an Xbox Series X, and then your $100 games, it's like, yeah, nobody, like it's already a bit of an ask for me. Like I bought my daughter the Princess Peach game, but I think it was like for a birthday present. So it wasn't even like just on a whim, like, oh, you're gonna love this, let me get it for you. It was still like a gift for an event kind of thing. And even that, it's like you're creeping up towards $100 after tax and stuff. But now it's like, yeah, sorry, I cannot buy you the brand new Nintendo game because we're talking like $100 for a game that sure you're gonna like probably, and you're gonna put a lot of time into it because you're much happier to just sit in a game over and over and over than like we are. But so like the kid and family perspective and like secondary console perspective, like it's hit the point where it's like, oh yeah, it's too much. Like they crossed the line.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those too where it's like, you know, even if you wanted to pick this up at a GameStop used, like a lot of times they're expensive at GameStop, even used, because they don't get traded in all that often. Because like you said, like no one's really trading in a Nintendo game because it was expensive to buy in the first place. And it's one that, like, even if I'm not playing Mario Kart all the time, I keep Mario Kart around so that when I have people over or when I go over to somebody's house and bring a Switch, we can all play Mario Kart, you know? Like, it's not a... So you can't even count on, like... Because that, you know, I buy some Nintendo stuff actually, like, physically because I like the fact that I can just pop the cartridge in and it's ready to go, basically.
Well, and that was the only way you could share games before too. Like the only easy way to share games was like, here, take the physical copy and check it out. Whereas if you bought it digitally, which not that it's super easy. Well, I mean, it is pretty easy to share digital games on other platforms. You're just like, hey, let's be in a family. But like you and I are in a Switch family. I'm in a Switch family with my daughter, but she still has to be on my profile to play the games that I bought for her digitally.
Yep.
So, and then if she's doing that, I can't play any digital games on my Switch because she's using my profile. Like, if we can't do it at the same time. So,
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's frustrating and disheartening because like games are supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be like a fun hobby. It's supposed to be like kind of a relaxing, cool thing. But like when you're kind of hobby, toy, whatever you want to call it, like there is a point where like too much is too much. It's like, and some of these games like, could be the best ever. This could be the coolest console ever, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like I have to pay bills, feed the family. Like there are things that come before gaming. And so like eventually it's like, nope, sorry. I am not going to buy this thing as much as it like looks cool. Like I just can't.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, like at a certain point, it's like, okay, if I'm buying a Switch and I want to pick up Mario Kart, I want to pick up Metroid Prime 4, and I want to pick up this new Donkey Kong game, all of a sudden I'm looking at, if I get the bundle, $700
Yeah.
minimum. You
Yeah.
know, and it's like, well, shit, I might as well just get into like Warhammer 40K or something else that's like one of those ridiculously expensive hobbies, because it's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to like donate fucking plasma to to be able to afford this thing. It's like, and that's like, at that point it becomes like, this is no longer fun entertainment, and it's, I don't know, it's one of those things too where it's like, I don't know, maybe Japan's economy is doing way better than, like, we're based in the US, and so, you know, we know way more about like how our economy is doing, which is not great. A lot of people have less just fun money in general these days, and so it's like, this seems to be going the opposite way of like what you would want during this time, you know, where it's like, barring another global pandemic and stimulus check, I don't know who's who's coming out to buy this. I mean, like, there will, and that's the thing, is like, it will sell out probably. Like, maybe it won't, but it probably will, because it's Nintendo.
Well,
you know, like, there are a bunch of people that are going to scream about it on the internet, and then you're not going to be able to find it in a store until like mid 2026. So
yeah, I have like 2 points before we move into like talking about the games themselves, because there is some cool stuff coming. But
yeah,
first, like I said earlier, like this just feels like PC gaming, I think, is going to take over even more than it already is, because it's getting more accessible to your average Joe. Like, you can buy pre-built PCs. You probably have
the
a
next
friend.
Xbox is going to be a pre-built PC.
Yeah.
Like, they've come out and said it. You
You-
enjoy playing Last of Us on your Xbox. So
You probably have a friend that could help you build one if you need to. You can get a PC. Like, it used to be, oh man, PC gaming, that's so expensive. It's like, yeah, $1,000 for a PC, that's crazy. I can go get my PlayStation for $400. Not anymore. Like, when you're talking about $700 something for a console, it's like, well, at this point, maybe I'll just look at a PC, and then I have Steam.
yeah. Well, that, and also, like, in a few years, you can get a new graphics card and replace the one in your,
You can just
your
kind of
PC.
upgrade things as you need to, and nowadays, like, all of Xbox is on PC, because essentially they're shifting into that market. PlayStation games are coming to PC later. Like, you've got the Spider-Man games, you've got God of War, you've got Days Gone, you've got Horizon, you've got Last of Us. So it's like, I mean, sure, you have to wait a little bit. You don't get it right away, but with the amount of games that are out these days, so it's like, really, Nintendo is kind of the last holdout, and this price is like.
So what you're saying is, there's still going to be that secondary console, but it's just going to be, instead of having a PlayStation and Xbox and a Switch, you're just going to play on PC and have a Switch.
Yeah, and also what I'm saying is that I don't think that everything is said and done yet, because there was the backlash with the 3DS. I saw somebody like posting about that, and it was like, they did a big price drop because it wasn't selling, and then they like gave people, I don't remember if they gave them like Nintendo credit or if they like straight up refunded them the difference if they bought it like initially. Like, there was a big problem with that at launch. The other thing that they're doing that's kind of shady is, you mentioned Japan's economy, right? There is
it's different, right?
There's
it's
a cheaper
priced.
version one in Japan, but it's region locked. So you can't buy that unless you're in Japan, unless you just are going to get all like Japanese games too, because it's all region locked. Whereas, you know, people are talking about,
I can learn Japanese.
if it is like just the economies, like the American economy, people are like, oh yeah, this is America, it's tariffs, blah, blah, blah. But it's expensive in Europe, it's expensive in Australia. Like, it's everywhere it's expensive, especially in like the Western world right now. But in Japan, there is like a $350 version, but
Mhm.
it's region locked. And so it's like, I mean, it just shows it's not too shocking when you think about how we were seeing them do this stuff with the like Mario collection where it was only available for 3 months, and like they've been doing, and we've been talking about it, these kind of shady business practices, because they know, like I've made the comparison multiple times that like Nintendo fans are basically like Disney adults. Like they're just rabid and just like they make Nintendo their whole personality, and so they have to support this thing, and Nintendo is able to get away with a lot because of that. And on the other side, they do make really interesting, unique, fun, whimsical, silly kind of games that you don't really get anywhere else. Like there are some, like some Sackboys and some things like that that are competing, but like nobody does it as well as Nintendo. And so all of that combined has let them get away with a lot. But they had a monumental failure with the Wii U, and I think this isn't the same as far as like confusing technology and naming and all that. Like I think on paper, and aside from the pricing stuff, I think this Switch would sell probably better than the first one. Well, I mean, there was COVID, but like like the decisions they're making, the kind of anti-consumer decisions that they're making, I think they're gonna bite them more now than they ever have, and a lot of that is just because, like you said, we don't have the money for frivolous stuff like we have in past years. Like the economy has its ups and downs, and right now it's down, and it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, I have to choose my fun hobby or like getting my car fixed or what. Like there are just things. And so I think Nintendo is going to feel that more this time around. Not to mention the people that are just mad at them for this, that will potentially not buy it, or at least not buy it immediately. But like you said, there are people that are talking mad right now that already have it pre-ordered. So
well, and that's another little interesting tidbit. I don't even know if I could pre-order one if I wanted to, because they're doing pre-orders. They're attempting to fight scalpers and only letting you like get one, and I think also it's based on your playtime on Switch. So I don't even know that I would qualify to get one. I would be pretty far back in the line. But it is one of those things too, where like you were saying though, it's like as much as people decry Game Pass as like, oh, I don't want everything to be a subscription, it's like that's the fact that it's all of Xbox's first party titles. It's like, if Xbox starts charging $80 digital, $90 physical, which is weirder because a lot of like Xbox and PlayStation games are literally just a download with a box at this point. So, but like if they start charging it, like, because we joke about it being the best deal in gaming, but we're doing that math based on like how many $70 games would you have to play in order to make that. If it becomes like a $90 game, it's like, for sure. And so I wonder if like the Nintendo Switch Online back library stuff, like at what point do they maybe start including, like they won't do it, but if they started to include like Switch games or whatever, it's like, okay, well maybe like if they came out with their version of Disney Plus, I think the story would be a little bit different, right? So
yeah, well, this is for sure going to push the industry more in the direction that Xbox is like banking on, where these things
Whoa, be careful. The internet hates when you say that Xbox might have actually been doing all of the right things.
Yeah, well, and I mean, they're doing a business that a certain group thinks is also, not consumer friendly, because you don't own your games, and like they can take them away from you. And it's like, I mean, it's like Netflix too, where it's like Game Pass is cool now, but like Netflix sucks now. Like the content's not that good, and it's expensive, and there's ads, and so like that is
There's
road
ads on Netflix.
Yeah, unless you pay like the $25 a month subscription, or what. I don't know exactly how expensive it is, but like bottom tier has ads like they all do now. And so like that is a future we could potentially go towards with gaming if the cost of buying them is too expensive and street, because PlayStation has their Game Pass. They don't do day and date titles, but they have like their catalog, and you pay the subscription, and like so we are trending that way, and higher game prices like this. And so there are people who speak out kind of against that. Like I feel like the creative director for Baldur's Gate, like he's been pretty vocal about owning games and that kind of stuff. Like I don't know if he's anti Game Pass. I know he was saying those things like in response to Ubisoft comments and stuff. But like
I don't think he's putting his game on Game Pass. I want to say he's not anti Game Pass. He's just like, I don't need it though. So
yeah, but like if developers don't want to see the industry go that way, granted, it's not the developers making these choices, it's above them, it's publishers, but it's like you can't charge prices that people can't afford for them to buy your games. They're going to find other ways to play them, whether that's pirating, whether that's subscription services, whether that's just waiting for deep discounts, and so you're not making as much off of them. Eventually you hit a tipping point where your greed just like becomes your downfall, and so we'll see how that plays out for Nintendo.
Well, in a way, it's a lot like the movie industry, right? Where like movie tickets now are like $15 here, which I know people that live in cities, you're like, what? $15 is cheap. Down here, it's not. Like down here, it's outrageous to have to pay $15 to go to the movies.
Well, not to mention the snacks and stuff, which have always been expensive, but now it's like, good Lord, I need a second mortgage just to get popcorn.
Exactly. But you're seeing it happen to them, where it's like, it's the industry, like their industry is in a rough spot.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man was the last movie I went to see in theaters.
Yeah, I went to see Dune 2, and that was the first movie that I had seen since Dune 1 in theaters. So yeah, I mean, like it's the more that, because I think you said it perfectly earlier, like ultimately what these are is like luxuries. And at a certain point, if people don't have the ability to purchase luxuries, they are not going to, like, there are some crazy people, that go into ridiculous amounts of debt and, can't make a house payment to go to Disney World. There are those people. Most people are not that, most people are going to be like, yep, Switch 2 costs $500 before tax. No thanks. Like, I'll wait. I'll get it in a couple of years when it's on sale, when I'm not buying the PlayStation 6 that comes out in 2027 or whatever it's rumored to come out. It's like, I'll pick up the Switch 2 then, when I'm not buying the PlayStation 6. Exactly.
So, So a lot to unpack here, this is just kind of the state of the industry. Nintendo just, But on the flip side, they did show off some games. We're getting some new games, some games that look pretty cool, some games that I would like to play, but we'll see like if and when I do play them. So first we're going to talk about the games that like the Nintendo games, the like first party. Yeah. And so we got a response in our Discord from Caleb. He's Deku Scrub in our server. He's been on the show before on Nintendo game episodes. And he is very excited about a new 3D Donkey Kong in 2025. He said, has someone been reading my Christmas list? So, yeah.
Yeah. So they showed off this game, which, I mean, looks cool.
It looks pretty cool, yeah.
What did you think of the art style? Because I looked at this and I was like, this is not the Donkey Kong that I know. This is not Mr. Kong. This is what is going on here?
I didn't really it didn't stand out to me one way or the other. I was more
I was off put by the amount of teeth, I think, is what it was.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. I mean, overall, like his smile was just really big in general, and like there was they gave Donkey Kong a lot of personality in this, which is cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for me, it was like, oh, you can just like dig into the earth and break everything, and like just the kind of physics of the game and like what you're doing in it seems really interesting and very like, it kind of reminds me of like Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction back in the day, where it's like you're playing as the Hulk, you should be able to destroy the city, and you could. And so in this, it's like you're playing as Nintendo's the Hulk, Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
And he can just like kind of destroy all these environments and like dig down in the ground. And also like the art style was a little odd, but it also seemed like kind of the core idea of the game is everybody else has been kind of turned into these like crystals or jewels or something. And so everybody's kind of like jagged and shiny except for Donkey Kong. So I'm sure like he's probably trying to rescue them and turn them back into normal or something. But it basically was like he's exploring this big mine, and they're like mining all of these jewels, and it seems like the other characters were turned into jewels. So that game looked really cool. What were some of the other...
Do you think we'll get a new wrap? Because that's the other part that as soon as I saw this, I was like, are we getting a new DK wrap?
I don't think so, because I think that was very of its time. I don't know what the equivalent would be.
The early 90s rap?
Yeah, I don't know what the equivalent would be now, like a Chappelle Roan Donkey Kong song or something. Like, I don't know what the 2025 equivalent to that, where people look back in like 15 years and they're like, oh yeah, that was very of its time. I don't know what that is, but
yeah,
I think that is more likely than a 90s style rap. But I mean, it's kind of a meme, so maybe we'll see like a joke about it or something in the game. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What other games that they announced stood out to you? Obviously, we have to talk about Mario Kart.
Yeah. The one I'll shout out is Kirby Air Riders, just because as a kid, I don't know why we had Kirby Air Ride and not like Mario Kart, but we did.
Yeah.
And like, I remember we would put hours into just like messing around in Kirby Air Ride, and having fun with it. And so it was kind of cool to see like a sequel situation coming out, because that's one of the ones that I would never have expected. Like, I saw Kirby and I was like, okay, so they're either gonna like say that Smash Bros is like getting a Switch upgrade, or this is gonna be like a new like sequel to like Forgotten World or Forgotten Realm or whatever it is. And then it was like, oh wait, he's like riding around on his little star. Oh, this is Air Riders. So I thought that was kind of cool. Just because it's a fun little game that I was surprised to see make a comeback. I thought that was pretty niche. So
yeah, similarly, whenever I'd go to Caleb's house on the weekends back when we were kids, we would go to this little like mom and pop video store and get like we would get to pick out a game. The parents would pick out some movies. We'd get pizza. We'd go back to the house. We'd like play our game. They'd watch their movies. And we rented Kirby Air Ride like almost every weekend for a while there.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we explored that thing. I mean, it felt so novel at the time. And so, yeah, it's cool to see it coming back.
Well, it's kind of interesting, like thinking about what that game was. Cause like, as I reflect on it, it's like, it was kind of like a racing roguelike almost. If you did like the city mode or whatever it was, because it like plop you onto the map of the city, and you'd go around you had like maybe 5 or 10 minutes to like go around, and you could find different cars that you could have. You could try to like collect the parts to get one of the super cars. You could like go around and just like get upgrades for like how fast your car could go, or its acceleration, or whatever. And at the end, there would be like a mini game or a race or something that you had to do with like, and whoever spent the best, like did all their time upgrading it or whatever, had the best run. So it was just a weird, interesting game. So,
well, you know why it's coming back?
What's I forget his name, the guy who did Smash Brothers,
Sakurai,
right? Like,
he's making it, and he's known for Smash Brothers, but he's also the Kirby guy. So it makes sense that Smash is, for all intents and purposes, like done, at least for now. I definitely wouldn't be shocked to see another one on Switch, but this is what he's been working on since they like finished probably that second DLC for Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about Mario Kart Horizon, which is not what it's called. It's called Mario Kart World, but it's essentially they took the like Forza Horizon idea and put it on Mario Kart.
What was it? The Ubisoft one? Drive. The Crew?
The Crew did that. Yeah, we could just drive across like America or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has like the traditional races and everything. It doubles the amount of people that are racing. There's 24 now, which
24.
Is pretty crazy. That's a lot.
I saw that and I was like, sweet, I can be 24th now. Great.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like memes of some of the new characters that you see riding around.
The cow from Moo Moo Meadows is like the one I keep seeing, where it's just kind of like, why? Well, I know that we needed 24 characters, but like the cow from Moo Moo Meadows, you didn't have anywhere else that you could like dig around in. you did all the Mario baby, Luigi baby, baby Peach,
I'm
like
sure
all of those you ran out of, like
Golden Baby Mario, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the other like big feature is that between races, you have to drive from like track to track. And also I think there's just like a free world kind of exploration mode too, where you can just like drive around with your friends and explore the world. Yeah. So pretty cool. Like people are always like, I don't even know what they would do in another Mario Kart. Like the Mario Kart 8 is like basically the peak of the series. And they're like, well, what if we just did Horizon? And it's like, you know what? Actually, that's pretty cool. That seems like a good fit. I think that's going to work really well. Yeah. I'm still mad at you for charging $90, but I do think that this will be a good video game.
Yeah, it does seem cool. It's one of those where I'm like, maybe when the $500 bundle is down to $350, I'll pick this up.
Exactly. So then outside of that, like they announced
the one I'm
go ahead.
The one I'm going to shout out because I think it's just bizarre the way that they're doing it is the Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour, which is a game.
Yeah.
It's essentially like the Astrobot, but not, because like it didn't look like it was. I guess there were maybe some mini game things that you could do, but it looked mostly like just a big sort of tech demo where you could walk around and be like, and read about the different things that were in your Nintendo Switches, like Joy-Cons and shit. And so as we're watching this like 3 or 4 minute trailer as part of the thing, the whole time I'm like, okay, so this is going to be like a pack-in. This is going to be like their built-in bundle game. No, you have to go buy this game. And so I'm like, okay, so we've already got a winner for like worst selling Switch game right here.
Exactly.
Like who's looking at this and being like, man, I need to go buy the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour.
Yeah.
I assume it's not going to be $80 or $90. But you don't know that.
I mean, even if it's like $10, it doesn't look fun. So,
no.
I mean, 1-2 Switch or whatever that came out with the Switch that was supposed to like kind of utilize all the new mechanics and stuff actually was like mini games and whatnot. And people didn't buy that game either. So, like, yeah, that was a bizarre. As soon as they said like sold separately or whatever they said at the end of the trailer, I was like, okay. All right.
Yeah, like why? Who made that decision?
Yeah, I saw some quote.
Reggie would never.
Exactly. I saw some quote or something, and it was on social media, so I don't know how true it actually is, but basically the idea was that Reggie had to make them make Wii Sports a pack-in with the Switch or something. Like they wanted to, like Nintendo kind of has the mindset that if they put work into something that they should make money off of it, which like, sure, I get that.
Yeah.
But if people had to buy Wii Sports, I don't know that anybody really, like that game would not have been the success that it was and would not be looked back fondly like it was. And this is like not even playing bowling with your controller. This is like walking around a giant Switch and reading about the like LR button. And so it's like
the magnets. And
crazy.
Bizarre.
We got another Hyrule Warriors game. Looks pretty cool. I've always meant to go back and play the other ones, but never have.
Those are ones that I want to play, but because they never go on sale for less than like $40.
Well, the really old ones that were on like the Wii U, the Hyrule Warrior games, those you could probably get pretty cheap. They have them both bundled together. The first one that they did in like the Breath of the Wild style, yeah, I don't think that one goes on sale as deeply.
Yeah.
But that would be the one I'd want to play, that one and this one, because they actually like the first two were just like literally kind of fan servicey, like typical kind of games in this style, but the ones in the Breath of the Wild universe actually
They're like
they add some story
telling you about how
exactly
the world got to the point it was. Yeah.
And then they had a few little quirky games, and then they had like we talked about, the Zeldas are getting an upgrade, the Mario Party Jamboree, Pokemon, Metroid Prime 4, and Kirby and the Forgotten Land are all getting like Switch 2 versions that you have to pay to upgrade to, unless you have some of them you can get with your subscription, your online subscription.
Yeah.
So we also got a response from Kevin in our Discord, Kevin from the Gamer Parents podcast, who was talking about the price of games. And he said, on the price of new games, I'll just have to be more thoughtful about which games I want to buy and maybe make more of an effort to swap games with friends or buy used maybe. Also, I hate how Nintendo doesn't discount old games, which...
Yeah, we were literally just talking about that.
Yep.
But I think you're right, though. Like, they showed off a lot of cool stuff, but it's like, okay, if I, like, in some world where I gotta switch to, what game would I buy? Because now I do have to think about which of these games from Nintendo do I want. It's no longer a thing where it's like, okay, I got my $350 console. I can, I got Mario Kart 8 bundled with it. And I'm also going to pick up Animal Crossing and Smash Brothers or something like that because, and I'm still only paying less than $500, now it's like I'm starting at $500 and every single one of these games has a high likelihood. Like some of them, just kind of looking at them, I'm like, it'd be crazy if that was $80. But like Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, Hyrule Warriors, and Kirby Air Ride, probably $80 games, minimum, if you get them digitally.
Yeah.
And if you want to do some upgrades too, like now, like Kevin was saying, you have to think about, be very thoughtful about, am I really going to play Breath of the Wild again? Do I pay the $30 to have my phone be a second screen? Do I pay the upgrade fee for Metroid Prime 4, or do I just play the Nintendo Switch version?
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly. They also announced that GameCube games are coming to the online subscription service, which is something that we thought was going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
It's cool to see it happen. They're putting Wind Waker on there, which is nice to see.
Paw.
Yeah. It's nice that we're getting it. It's not like its own. I mean, honestly, maybe this is better because it's in the subscription. So like, it's essentially like, I don't know what I pay. I think I pay like $80 a year for the family. And so I'm getting multiple games. Whereas if they like ported the remaster to Switch, they'd probably charge $80 at this point. So, I mean, maybe the GameCube games are like visually enhanced a little bit. So it does look really good. I think there was like 5 or 6 games at launch, and then they're going to, add to the collection like they did for all the others. So that's pretty cool.
Yep. Double Dash. I'd love to, like, that's the GameCube thing was one of the more interesting things for me because I've gone on record as saying I don't really have a whole lot of nostalgia for like NES, SNES, N64, a lot of the old handhelds, just because I didn't have them. Like I played them at friends' houses maybe, but like I didn't have them. The GameCube though was my first console. And so there is a lot of nostalgia there for me and a lot of older games that I would love to maybe go back and check out, And also like the GameCube era is kind of like where games start feeling sort of modern-y, like we had two thumbsticks at that point, like uh, so it's a lot to me. It's a lot easier to like transition back to like a GameCube game than like trying to figure out whatever jacked up control scheme the N64 had, or like playing with a D-pad like a SNES or NES game, like so.
Yeah, there are games on the GameCube like Wind Waker that still hold up, still play well.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, definitely aged a lot more gracefully.
Yeah.
And then kind of the last section of things that we're going to talk about from this direct are there were a bunch of games that were not Nintendo first party that were mentioned or talked about as well. And Caleb commented on this as well in our Discord, saying, genuinely great direct for the most part. Deltarune at launch, open world Mario Kart looks sick, Silk Song exists, Kirby Air Ride 2, and legally distinct Bloodborne sequel.
Whoa.
So I feel like we'll go through kind of some of the smaller things that we're excited about before we pick apart the legally distinct Bloodborne sequel, because we have to talk about that. I mean,
yeah.
I could probably do an entire episode or YouTube video on just that that announcement and trailer. So we'll see how that goes here. But like, what were some of the? Obviously, we saw Silk Song. They say it's coming this year.
Yeah, because it's never like they've missed a date before, like that's never happened with that game. And I don't know. I would have to go back and look at it. I don't even know if it was new footage. I genuinely can't remember.
No, probably not. It was probably something we'd seen before in trailers. So it's nice that like Nintendo and Team Cherry are like saying, no, this game is still real. But that's about all that does for me. It's like, I still wouldn't bet on it coming out this year, but
yeah, because it wasn't even a full trailer. It was
in like a sizzle reel.
Clip. Yeah. So now, one thing that I'll throw out there as we kind of go through this is a lot of what they showed off was games that were already out but were now coming to the Switch too.
Yes.
So in that category, we've got things like Cyberpunk, we've got things like Elden Ring, we've got things like Hogwarts Legacy, Hitman, Kunitsugami, Civ 7, Split Fiction, Street Fighter 6, Yakuza 0. So there was a bunch of stuff that Wild Hearts. So there's a bunch of stuff that they threw out there that was like, hey, the Switch can now run this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's coming. The joke I keep seeing because going around is like Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, because it's the worst version of like Elden Ring.
Yeah,
but
I heard, like,
I don't know. I mean,
Cyberpunk is apparently like 40 frames a second, and when it's docked, I've heard rumors that it like has a ridiculously long loading time when you first boot it up, kind of like Grand Theft Auto had on like the 360, But I mean, it's cool that these games are available, that they run they're not the streaming version of them that you had to have on the like original Switch. But yeah, it's still going to be the like worst place to play most of these games. Like Kunitsugami, that game probably going to be fine on the Switch, but like Cyberpunk or Elden Ring, it's like
yeah, like it's one of those where it's like, if you really want to play this game on the go, I guess, and you don't want to like get a there were some, I guess, where I looked at it and I was like, I don't know who this is for. Like, it's cool to see Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch too, right? But as we've talked about, the Switch 2 is kind of that, like the Switch fills its role as like a tertiary console. Or like the kid console. It's not your primary console. So if you're an adult who has another console and you had interest in playing Cyberpunk, I don't know why you wouldn't just play Cyberpunk on your primary console or PC versus deciding to pick it up on Switch 2. And if you're a child,
You're not playing Cyberpunk.
2077 is probably not appropriate for you.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so it's to me, it's cool to see, and it's kind of a cool like, haha, these are great games that you never thought would run on the Switch, and now they are. But it is a little bit like, I mean, okay, I hope they didn't spend a lot of time and money developing this, because like I don't know if they're going to recoup that cost there. So
Yeah.
um,
So like you said, a lot of these are games that already are out that are coming to Switch, or games that we know about being confirmed coming to Switch, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4, Marvel Comic Invasion, Borderlands 4. A lot of games that are upcoming that now that the Switch is
now what Cosmic Invasion? I don't remember seeing that.
That's like the pixel art beat 'em up Marvel game that was announced at the Direct, I think, a couple weeks ago.
I thought maybe it was going to be like another Ultimate Alliance sort of game, and I was excited.
No. We also got announcements that there are games upcoming that are coming to the Switch, like Final Fantasy, Hades 2, like games that don't have release dates necessarily. The most exciting
Project 007.
Exactly, it was 007. I'm very excited to see that team do a game on James Bond. I feel like their stealth gameplay will fit James Bond, but I think they'll probably have to lean into action a bit more than the Hitman games, and so I'm excited to see them do that, because they're extremely talented. Like, Hitman is very well made. It just, I can never get into it, and so I'm hoping that like the 007 game will be a little bit more up my alley, but with their level of quality. So I'm very excited to see more from that game. Like, we knew that's what they were working on, but like seeing it actually get teased, it's like, oh, okay, we're starting to like actually get some stuff about this game.
Yep.
And then, unless you have anything else you want to shout out.
I'll shout out Enter the Gungeon. I remember playing Enter the Gungeon 1 and having fun with it. Enter the Gungeon 2, I had to go look up a trailer after the fact, because I don't know if you were did you watch the stream live or after?
I watched it after.
Okay. Live,
it crashed.
The stream had some issues, and so I didn't see the Enter the Gungeon trailer, but it looks pretty cool. I think it's like 3D now.
Yeah, it's 3D.
So that's kind of cool. But that's one that I think will be kind of cool, provided it's not $80.
I also don't think
it will be
a Switch exclusive. Like, it's just coming to Switch.
I think it's Devolver too, Devolver Digital. So like they generally price their games pretty fairly, I think. So
yeah. And then like kind of definitely the biggest third party announcement, and kind of like the big moment that, like, they ended with Kirby, but like this was probably their big one more thing, was From Software making an exclusive game for the Switch 2, already a bizarre choice, with heavy Bloodborne vibes.
Like, yeah. Now, do you think this will always be a Switch 2 exclusive? Like, is it Nintendo partnered with FromSoft, or is it a FromSoft game that just happens to be coming to the Switch first? Or
how many games
that was the thing that I
come to Switch and then go other places? I feel like we see it the other way around way more often.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's not impossible, but I feel like if FromSoft was just going to put this game, like, I guess it could be timed exclusivity, but I feel like if there wasn't some sort of a binding deal with Nintendo, this would have just been like announced across the board all at once and been like a multi-platform game. So and because Nintendo is Nintendo, I would not be surprised to see this locked to Switch forever, which is weird. Because before we get into like what the game is itself, like I had apprehensions about this, because initially everybody's like, oh, Bloodborne 2, except they can't call it Bloodborne. But as I was watching the trailer, I was like, this is not Bloodborne 2. This is Victorian, like a Victorian style Gothic city was teleported into the middle of Elden Ring. And then there's like a guy who needs blood, like a vampire type thing. And then there's a guy flying around in like a jetpack. And then there's some like Lies of P looking industrial like train tracks and stuff. And then there was like an automatic weapon being fired at one point, which like they had kind of like machine gun stuff in Bloodborne. But like none of the characters really, like with the exception of the first guy you see, looked like a hunter. There were no trick weapons. A lot of the art style and everything looks like Elden Ring. The character, they showed like a female player looking character kind of halfway through that looked straight up just like an Elden Ring like caster or something. And so I was already like, okay, I get why the initial beginning of this trailer people are psyched, and it seems like, you know, there's definitely Bloodborne vibes in there. But already I was like, okay, this is not Bloodborne or legally distinct Bloodborne. It's definitely something else. And then we get more information that this is a PvEVP or PvPvE game. It seems, and this might excite you, the comparison people have been making is Hunt Showdown.
Interesting.
And tomorrow at the time of recording this, there will be an interview with Miyazaki about the game, so we'll probably get a lot more details. Like this may have aged already by the time you hear it. But
they may announce that it's coming to Xbox and PlayStation and PC.
Right, yeah. So. It was just an exclusive announcement on Switch. But yeah, they've been comparing it to Hunt because it is likely an extraction type game where you go in with your character, you try to like accomplish some goal, probably kill a boss because it's FromSoft, and then like get out with your loot or blood or whatever. And so, like I said, at the time of recording this, we don't know much more than that, and even that is kind of like speculation. So like we don't know, is this a Night Rain thing where it's purely like gameplay with very little bit of story kind of pulling it through? Is this going to be like a bit more story with, and like there are people online arguing that all FromSoft games have been PvPvE games, so this one shouldn't be any different. But it's like, no, you know what they mean when they say this. This is not you can be invaded. Like this is, look at the trailer. There are distinct characters, some working together, and so just all of this combined, it's like, man, again, something that should be or could be really exciting, kind of getting the like hype sucked out of it.
Yeah, because it's one of those where it's like, with the timing of this announcement, like our last episode that we did was like, hey, Sony didn't talk about Bloodborne 2, so we're going to talk about Bloodborne 2, right? And so with the timing of this trailer, everybody's already primed to be like Bloodborne 2. And like you said, there's definitely that vibe to it, especially like there are several shots where it's like, holy crap, that's Yharnam. Like, but I'm not one that's gonna like, there are a lot of people online that are jumping to a lot of conclusions and that are unable to just kind of like wait and see what the game is going. Like they've already formed their opinion that some like influencer has dictated to them that they should have, and so they're all like raging. And I look at this and I'm like, that looks kind of cool. I like the art style. I'm gonna wait and see kind of like what this is. Like I'm not rushing out to try to pre-order anything, but I'm also not like writing this off as like, oh, it's going to be terrible. Similar to like Night Rain, where a lot of people are like, oh, I hate this because multiplayer. And then like we played the beta and we were like, that's pretty cool. You know, probably pick this up. Like it's not.
Don't undersell it. We played a closed network test.
That's true.
We're very special.
we were exclusively invited.
Yeah.
But like, is that what I want all of their games to be from here on out? No. But could that be something cool? Yes. Um, and until we know more about the game, which, like you said, hopefully we're gonna find out some more details tomorrow about exactly what that means. Like, the assumption is like, yeah, it's not gonna be just like a like you can just be invaded all the time sort of situation. It's gonna be more of like a, yeah, no, like this is more of like an extraction thing, more of like a night rain situation. Um, but could there be more of a story? Could there be, who knows? Like Miyazaki is the one directing this one.
Yeah.
It's not like Night Rain, which was developed by like a separate team essentially. Like, this is Miyazaki himself doing it, but we still don't know, like, this definitely gives the vibes of like a smaller experience to tide you over until the next big thing.
Yeah, like it has very much like creative side project energy, which, like you said, it looks cool. And honestly, I would be I'm really stoked to play Night Rain, like even after the network test and everything. Like, I had fun with that. I think it's cool to see FromSoft playing with their formula, because, it would be really easy for them to just rigidly stick to it and keep making Dark Souls games. But
Yeah.
it's cool to see them experimenting with like the underlying foundation of what their games are, but then putting those on like other gameplay styles and stuff. But
Yeah.
it being locked behind the Switch is frustrating. And then also like, yeah, the timing was just,
Allegedly.
well, yeah, the timing is just really awkward and weird to announce a game with some Bloodborne vibes when like the 10th anniversary of Bloodborne just passed, and like it just feels like either go all in and make it essentially legally distinct Bloodborne, or just
call it like Born from Blood or something. I don't know.
Or
like,
well, but then make that game.
yeah.
And if you're not going to make that game, go a different direction. Like, don't make it this kind of half Bloodborne thing. But there's a lot of really cool stuff, like enemy designs, and there's like this smiling moon that looks like it's out of Majora's Mask and stuff. So like there's a lot of weirdness going on that I'm excited to like check out eventually. Hopefully, like you said, it does come to other platforms. But
yeah, I guess I say that just thinking like in this day and age, like we kind of talked about in our previous episode, FromSoft is no longer at the point where they have to rely on like a publisher exclusivity deal,
yeah,
and so I guess I just look at it like, why would they agree to make an exclusive game somewhere when they could put it everywhere?
yeah,
Like, I'm not ruling it out. It just would be a weird thing to me.
I mean, the whole thing is a weird thing. I feel like we're entering,
Yeah.
The games industry is in like a weird transitional period of growth and pain and bad decisions. And so like, who knows, this could be some weird thing. My thing is too, like if it's locked to the Switch, the first Switch has horrible online functionality.
Yeah, but did you see the shitty gameplay that they were streaming to their friends with the C button?
Yeah.
This one's clearly going to have better gameplay
I mean,
or connectivity.
screen sharing shouldn't be the same, like shouldn't be tied and be the same issue as just like you couldn't play Smash Brothers online. Like the latency is ridiculous that it's like you basically have to relearn that game. Same thing with like Mario games online. Like it's just the connection is bad. And then FromSoft up until probably also Elden Ring and Night Rain.
Well, even Night Rain was kind of a like, it wasn't just a invite your friend through the Xbox dashboard. It was still like an extra step, which was like, come on.
There's still a lot of quirks and like weird choices like that, but I'm saying at least in Night Rain and in Elden Ring, for the most part, not always, like it feels like your hits actually are registering when they're supposed to and where they're supposed to. Like older games, like if you knew how to abuse the bad connection, like you could just like you could win every single invasion because like it just wasn't good, and that wasn't what those games were supposed to like. It was just supposed to be like a little slice of that game, a little interesting piece. But like stacking FromSoft online with Nintendo online for an online PvPvE extraction game, like that makes me nervous. That seems like a recipe for disaster. And maybe, you know, the Switch 2 has finally jumped into the modern era of PlayStation 4 and has like competent online multiplayer like connectivity, but we haven't seen that yet. We won't know that until it's in our hands, because that's not something they're going to come out and say and be like, oh yeah, and online sucks, everybody. It's like, no, they're going to say it's fine, and then the players are going to get it and be like, oh man, this is just as bad as Switch, or oh yeah, they finally did it. Hopefully it's the latter, because that's another thing that makes me nervous about this game is like on any other platform, I'd be like, yeah, I don't even think about that being a problem. But a Switch exclusive, I'm like, yeah, but what if the online sucks and we're playing this online like multiplayer game? It's just like just weird choices. But
it'll be interesting to see what comes out and develops from this as it goes on, and also whether in like 2036 we're doing a podcast about Nintendo didn't talk about it, so we will. 10th anniversary of the Duskbloods,
I don't see this game having the same impact, but like you said, we don't know what we don't know. So maybe I'll eat my words after, you know, somebody explains to me what the interview showed us, because I'm not gonna read it.
Like it's a From Software game, so I'm sure it'll be something that I would probably enjoy. But like you said as well, like to be fair, it's coming in 2026 supposedly. So like realistically, I could have, I could own a Switch 2 by 2026 potentially. I'm definitely not buying one in 2025. So maybe the Duskbloods is in the future, or maybe it's coming to more than just Nintendo. I don't know. I'm trying to make that happen. If it's not,
Manifest it.
But yeah, it's one that I'm interested, like, because also part of what people are looking for in like From Software games is not the multiplayer. Like there are some people that get really into the multiplayer aspect of it, but a lot of people like exploring the world and the story and stuff. And so if this is the second game, like, don't get me wrong, I'm going to get Night Rain and play it with you and enjoy it, but not for the reasons I enjoy pretty much every other From Software game,
No, I very much think that like that side team during the Elden Ring development started working on Night Rain, and then Miyazaki was like, "Oh, that's actually pretty cool. We should flesh this out and make it a game.
Let me make my version."
And then he was like, "You know what? That's pretty cool. I should make one." And then so that's kind of where we're at now. And I guarantee that the next big whatever is also in development, but it just feels that this is very much like, which is cool. I like the idea of the creators being creative, because eventually if you just keep making the same game, you're going to burn out and they're not going to be as good. And also like audiences are going to get tired of them and whatever. So like, I like seeing them mix it up while still like maintaining their identity. Like these very much are still From Software games, but
well, and it's interesting too, because we see a lot of the next From Software thing in like them testing out ideas, right? And so like looking at what this game has, it's kind of like, oh, okay, more like a more like steampunky type of setting, like guns that aren't just like, the single shot pistols from Bloodborne, like more maneuverability, or like that one guy kind of almost gave me like some Armored Core vibes of like flying around. And so it's like, okay, what are we doing here? You know, could we be seeing maybe some like a more modern setting from their next game potentially, and they're experimenting with some of that on a smaller scale that they're going to sell to people, but you know, in a different way. So
Yeah. And the like kind of last thing, kind of piggybacking off that, is hopefully what we get out of this is more consistent, better multiplayer in their bigger games, like like seamless multiplayer, or like
whoa,
just maybe more naturally integrated multiplayer functionality that like makes sense in there, because like even Elden Ring is still craft the item, get the right finger, make sure you put your sign down. Oh, we beat the boss. Bye bye. I'll resummon you. Like people modded it on PC to make like seamless co-op, but
yeah,
it would be cool to see FromSoft themselves actually like kind of modernize how all that works. So hopefully we get some of that. Well, I knew it was going to be beefy. We honestly did pretty good, though. It's not we didn't like break 2 hours or anything. So housekeeping wise, on the podcast we have a really interesting Neighborhood Watch episode that'll be coming out at some point. That's been kicked down the road a couple times because of these like other things that we probably could have planned for but didn't. So that'll be a really fun listen, because we're talking about stuff that we were playing way back, and Aubrey's on it, so be looking forward to that. That's exciting. We also have an interview lined up that we're getting ready to record, and should have episodes with some guests on Assassin's Creed Shadows and Monster Hunter. So that'll be fun. So definitely stay tuned, subscribe, all that good stuff, because we got a lot of fun conversations on the podcast in the future. And if you want to hear, like, if you missed our Bloodborne episode, that was a really fun one as well, kind of talking about the state of Bloodborne and all that, with all this FromSoft talk, if you haven't had enough. But Dylan, what's going on in YouTube?
Well, as we kind of alluded to, in sort of an ironic turn of events right before a From Software game got announced, we threw out there like we put a list together about like, hey, if you're looking for something to scratch that Bloodborne itch, here's some suggestions. Andrew gave some suggestions for some Souls-likes, and I gave some suggestions that featured a little bit more of the sort of Lovecraftian side of things that Bloodborne does. So we've got that video up along with a bunch of other videos. Some are sections of previous podcasts that we've clipped out and are sort of testing to see how that does. Others are ones that we've specifically made, such as talking about like games with great female protagonists, or games that scratch a Left 4 Dead itch, because that's another game that's probably never getting a sequel. So that's where a lot of our shorter form content lives. So check that out if you are interested in some of that. And then also, if you're watching this on YouTube, like we talked about earlier, a like, a comment, subscription, all of that fun stuff really helps us out. So
Nice. Yeah. And that Bloodborne recommended video that we did is one of the first times we've done a double whammy in a hot minute. We're both on that video. So
yeah,
a little bit of back and forth. Go check that out. I was really happy with how it turned out. Yeah. Same. That has been it for our thoughts on the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct and the Nintendo Switch 2 current conversation that's been happening. Thank you all so much for listening or watching. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one, and stay friendly, gamers.